said, my name is Lloyd, and I started Big Outdoors in May of this year. And when I'm not running Big Outdoors, I'm a high school special ed teacher. So I took a little PTO today to be here to chat with you guys. So I appreciate your time. Big Outdoors is an online retailer of outdoor gear and apparel from companies that you can't find at your big box retailers. So we sell products that you won't find at your REIs, at your Gander Mountains, Cabela's, more niche items. But that also means that you won't find your Patagonias, North Faces, Mountain Hardware, some of those larger brands that most of you guys are probably familiar with on our site. And some of the companies that we feature and kind of set apart from those different companies is that we work with some companies that are right at their startup and initiation of themselves. So guys who are making tarps and tents in their basement on their free time to multi-million-dollar companies that choose, for whatever reason, not to engage in selling their products to big box stores. So that kind of creates an interesting culmination of different companies and different products. So we work with some US-based retailers, but we also work with a handful of international companies. But what all these companies have in common is that they have only a limited number of retail points in the United States. So for a half dozen of our companies, if you want to purchase their products, you can only do it at our site. And those are mostly for our international companies. And then some of our other US-based companies, we are one of maybe one or two different retail outlets for their products. So they share in common that they're products that are sometimes difficult to find in other places. And so what differentiates us between the big box stores is where they're selling, if you walk into an REI or you go to rei.com or gandermountain.com, you are looking at thousands of different products from potentially hundreds or thousands of different companies. So to me and to a lot of shoppers out there, unless you're looking for a very specific product in mind, that shopping experience can be fairly overwhelming. In terms of trying to differentiate between one of 1,000 different types of raincoats, unless you know a ton about this particular qualities that make that product unique, you're really just looking at price points and you're looking at, oh, Patagonia, that rings a bell. So what we're trying to do is try to create a more simplified shopping experience where you're looking at a curated collection. So instead of searching for socks and scrolling through thousands of different pairs, which it's hard to really tell what kind of quality you're getting, that you're looking at 3 different pairs of socks. Instead of shopping between thousands of different pairs of pants, you're looking at 2. So it's a smaller, more simplified shopping experience of great options from alternative companies. And so currently we work with 20 small companies. Some of them are small, some of them are larger, but all share in common that lack of being found at big box stores. And we're continuing to add companies and products as we continue and grow. As I said, we've just been around since May, so a lot of this has kind of been a learning process for that. And so on top of trying to create a simplified shopping experience, we're also trying to take these unique products that we feature and sell them in a unique way. So what that comes down to is looking at engaging photography. Some of the companies that we work with who are just starting up, they make the best down jacket you could think of, but they put it on their kitchen floor and took a picture of it, and that's the one that's on their website. So they might make great products, but their ability to market and brand themselves is pretty poor. Informative videos. So all of our products come with overview videos that allow you to really get ideas of the products before you're actually purchasing them. Because there's nothing worse than purchasing something online and then having it show up and you being like, well, this isn't what I thought it was at all. And then you get returns, and that's frustrating as well. And then company bios. So we work with cool companies that have really interesting and engaged founders. So we create biographies for each one of our companies to help further connect our customers to the products that they are purchasing. And then intuitive product presentations, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, as that's kind of what that bottom thing is. And then easily accessible packing lists. So a lot of times when people are going to be camping or such, they know that they generally need to bring things, but they don't know exactly what they need to bring. So accompanying our store are packing lists that incorporate our products for if you're going on a day hike, if you're going on a 3-day hike, or if you're hiking the Appalachian Trail, that those packing lists accompany our store. And then easy access to emailing experts in the field and chat options as well. So what you see down here is an example of how we are planning to lay out our store. Currently, when we launched in May, we had a different design, but we're going through a website redesign right now that we'll be launching in late November, and that's what our site layout will look like. And what we're moving towards is this idea that when people are shopping for outdoor stuff, they are looking at systems. So they're looking at like a base layer system. They're looking at an outer layer system of stuff that keeps them warm or keeps them dry. They're also looking at their sleeping systems. They're looking at their tents, at their sleeping bags, at their sleeping pads, all of these things that are that work compatibly together to give you that experience. So as an example here, if we're looking at tents, you have your tents, your sleeping bags, and your sleeping pads, and off to the left having all of those items shown and showing their continuity and their usability together through big, attractive images to the left. In different settings, so in the mountains, in the rivers and deserts, and then off to the right showing those thumbnails, and clicking on those thumbnails that will then connect you to those informative videos, those biographies, and that engaging photography. And so to really encourage this kind of systems-based thinking of shopping for outdoor gear and apparel, we also are adding the ability to bundle. So meaning that if you wanted to buy this entire base layer system of the socks, the pants, the shirt, and the underwear, that you could do that and you could bundle it for 20% off. Or if you're looking to buy a hammock system and you're going to buy a hammock and the tarp that goes over it and the quilts that you use for hammocking, that instead of paying $1,000 for all of that, you can get that at $800 or whatever that set price would be to really incentivize people to buy those things together. So as a startup, customer engagement is at the forefront of our minds all the time, and we do that a lot through a variety of social media campaigns on Instagram, on Facebook, recently got on Twitter and are trying to figure out exactly how that operates, but then also through social media outlets such as Pinterest. And we really fuel our social media through an updatable blog that we update twice a week. And then a lot of that content comes from a system of ambassadors. So we have 12 different individuals that are engaged in kind of a variety of different outdoor realms, from guides from NOLS to individuals who work at a variety of different YMCAs, but all people who are kind of engaged within the outdoor community in some way. And they're often responsible for creating the majority of our updatable content, but then also are kind of our boots on the ground for when we're pushing sales, or if we have new products that we want tested, they're the ones who are doing a lot of that. And then we do offer a handful of sponsorships and partnerships. So we partner with a lot of the local YMCA camps here in Minnesota and also in Wisconsin to offer promotional codes to their employees. And then we also sponsor a handful of different thru hikers, so people who are hiking the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail, in hopes of getting our products and the products that we represent into the hands of people who are really going to be using it. So that is currently what we're at. And yeah, that's it.
Lloyd, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks.
We'd like to ask all of our presenters that come to 1 Million Cups what it is that you think that this community would be able to help you with.
Great. Well, I put it on a slide because I suggested that I did so. So a little bit of context, I said I was a high school special ed teacher. I have a lot of experience in the outdoors, but I do not have a lot of experience in the realm of owning a small business. And so a lot of this has kind of been learning as I go in terms of picking up skills and having conversations with people who do really understand small business and marketing and advertising and all of that, and realizing that I certainly have some deficits in those areas. So I guess the first question that I'd like some input on is that I currently don't spend any money on advertising or promotion. As we started up, we do a lot of this stuff on social media, but we don't really promote anything. And kind of just generally, is that something that we should be doing, and where and when should I start knowing about that? Any thoughts?
So I'd like to bring the microphone around to anyone who has questions, responses to Lloyd's ask.
Or about anything else. These are just some of the things that I had generally thought about.
I'd like to get the audio on the video this way.
I really like the idea of making suggestions to people with your lists of things. But I'm a cheap guy. If I'm looking for socks, and I know I'm aware of your site, one of the things I want to do is compare.
Sure.
Do you have any suggestions for your customer on why this is the best? And if you want, here are some other places that you might fill out that list or find that better pair of socks.
Sure. So our list will primarily incorporate products just from Big Outdoors, but certainly for some of the more specialized items that we don't have on our site, we'll certainly refer off. That is one of the things about having a more specialized and curated collection, is that some of those lower price point items certainly will not be as apparent. But one of the things is that we're also not trying to sell top price point items. As we are a startup, we're trying to look more like middle range pricing for most of our items, and kind of seeing how that goes with the idea of expanding product lines as we go. So,
Two quick questions, kind of answering what you were talking about before. For advertising, have you visited with either SCORE or the Small Business Development Center yet? SCORE is a mentorship of experienced folks who do that. Small Business Development Center can do everything from marketing to soup to nuts to help with that kind of stuff. If you haven't, I'll talk to you later and kind of connect you to those folks.
I appreciate that.
And then the second question is, are you just kind of an advertising point? People come to your website, they buy a pair of socks, the order gets sent to the company and the company does the shipping? Are you just kind of the middleman, or are you doing anything in-house on your own?
It's a little bit of both. We prefer to warehouse our own inventory. So for all but 2 of the companies that we work with, we buy all of our inventory up front, we warehouse it, and we ship it ourselves. For some of our items, such as our pants, warehousing pants is just really difficult because there's a million different sizes that exist for pants, and you get a lot of returns on pants too. So when we do some drop shipping for our pants. We get that order, we send it off to the company, and then we don't actually handle that product. But the majority of it is inventoried.
I'm wondering why you think you can compete in this industry.
Sure. Well, I like to think of the market of small outdoor companies as kind of like the microbrews of the outdoor industry, where there is a sizable population of people who are looking for new and innovative products from different companies, and that there are no other companies that are currently doing what we're doing in this particular retail space. Yes, there are lots of companies that sell outdoor gear, but there are none that are really focusing in on alternative products from different companies. So it definitely has yet to be determined if that's going to be able to carve its own niche for itself, but I think that and it anecdotally seems like there is at least a desire for it in the market.
Hi, so my name is Sarah Cole, and I had worked in the Pacific Northwest with local vendors in one industry, and then I worked in management for Eddie Bauer.
Okay, cool.
So one thing about your question about advertising and promotion is that working with select vendors that you do work with, my understanding is that they have client lists, they have people that are saying, where can we get your product, things like that, where they could actually provide you with email contacts and things to help you promote them.
Sure.
So that's where I would start, is with all of, creating those relationships with each of those vendors and getting people, for an email list or subscribe to our blog or, things like that. And you can also ask them to like your Facebook page with their email addresses and things like that. So I actually wouldn't spend any money right now on advertising. I'd mine the partners that you have for potential clients or, customers.
That's good advice.
Yeah, and then also you mentioned your blog, creating profiles on all of your vendors. tell their stories, create a community, as well as the stories of your ambassadors, and maybe you're already doing that, but really use those vendors for your heart and community stories for your advertising and your blogs. And then just as far as having the experience with Eddie Bauer, they have a particular very generous return policy, and so does LL Bean, just considering your customer service and looking at your competition.
Sure.
In that aspect. And then lastly, I just wanted to share an experience as a customer with Eddie Bauer just last week with their online website. I was purchasing a winter coat for my husband, and I bought an outer layer, and then I was looking for an inner layer, and the description did say, you can do this with down or fleece or your inner layer. And for the life of me, I couldn't find the layers that zip into the outer layer on their website. It wasn't suggested. I went into the store, they didn't even have the inner layers. So, I mean, I just want to, validate what you're doing, and that a big brand doesn't have that handled yet. And I just wanted to share that.
Thanks.
So, yeah, and I'll give you my card and we can talk more.
Great.
Too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, a few things. I think the brand ambassador sales point is a great idea. I would suggest on that they expand their presence on YouTube, telling stories about themselves there, because there's a much larger pool you're going with there.
Sure.
Let's see what else. As far as I was a little interested when I saw the website was bigoutdoors.org, which is typically for nonprofit organizations. Is there a nonprofit component, or you're just giving that a shot?
There's not. When we first were starting up, the .com was purchased, and it's just something that we have not gotten to yet.
I don't know if there would be any negative blowback toward that or not. You may want to consider another alternative .com site that could kick back or something, or put a charitable component maybe would be an idea as well, just to fit in better with that framework.
Yeah.
I guess that is it.
Thanks, Larry.
Interesting concept, but I would encourage you to give some serious thought to what your core competence is and how you're merging that into this business. Because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're going down two tracks. You derive revenue from being an order processor and just shipping the order off to the manufacturer. And you're also getting into the manufacturing distribution side. Your core competence, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but seems to be in knowing the products, bundling them, matching them appropriately, et cetera, which is a good core competence. And to follow on the earlier comments, that's something needed. I don't know how much you've ever dealt with being a distributor, but that's a very capital intensive. The skill sets are completely different. Pick and pack and order inventory management, et cetera. That's a capital intensive side of the business. I'm not sure you want to be there, because that's not where, it doesn't sound like that's where your core competence is. If you can build your brand based on recommendations, bundling, matching products, that's something that's missing out there. And that's something, it sounds like, what you've got the skill in and where this could go. But I would encourage you to give some serious thought to that and not go too far down that distribution path, because that's very capital intensive, it's risky, a lot of competition, and that's where you might get in trouble and find yourself tripping over yourself.
Yeah, it's good to think about. Yeah, one of the things with that that we've kind of encountered is that a lot of the small companies that we work with are looking for that initial point of sale. Yeah.
They might be forcing you into something you don't want.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I echo what the previous responder said, and I think that your competence is knowledge of this very crowded and confusing space. I have significant experience at least tracking the cottage manufacturers, and they produce really high quality products, often boutique products that are underrepresented in the retail space. But it's, for the novice, it's just too difficult to pick them out. And you're really the intermediary telling them this is a great thing, and bundling them together would be a real service you could provide. I don't know if, when I hear you talk, I think of something like the Trunk Club. You know, they put together a kind of suite of things for you, and let you kind of check them out so that you can see what's available, things that you would not have otherwise come across if you just gone to REI or Eddie Bauer.
Thanks.
I agree with the last two guys too, and probably everybody else. I think you've made great progress since May.
Thanks.
It's exciting to see all those brands up there. I liked how you bundled it. When I saw some of them had like a sale, that to me was sort of like, oh, I don't know if that fits with the brand you want with the sale, but I do like hey, if you bundle all of these 4 different brands that all fit together, I like that. Seem to fit with what I think your brand is. Testing, and like a gentleman over here mentioned, like he likes to be able to know what the comparisons are. I think maybe you could take a step towards solving that for the guests on your website by saying, this is why we chose this. Like we tested the others, maybe not even name them, but we tested the others and we found that this was the best in these 3 ways, so that someone can have confidence that you have tested it and you chose this and it's the best, that you wouldn't want to offer anything else.
I like that, especially since we do a lot of reviews that are, we can definitely incorporate
Why?
yeah, and relating that back to industry standard products that people are going to be more.
So if I buy it, I would like to be, and my friend asks me, I've never heard that brand before, I'd like to say, well, now I know because it was on your website, it's better at this, whatever this is. Have you thought of potentially partnering with like a Dick's or an REI even, or even a Target, some of those larger companies, because if you find a home run, that may be something that you could feed into them then, if you had the right arrangements.
Yeah, it's not something that I've thought about yet, but on the radar.
They might be interested in that. You might be, doing some of their R&D for them. You could maybe set rules for the brands that you represent. It looks like you've got a lot of interest there since May. So I think maybe you might want to start setting those rules, like somebody said, on YouTube, making sure that they're creating their own content on YouTube, and whatever those rules are, just making sure that you're setting that stage.
Yeah, that's been
them.
an interesting kind of thing to navigate, just because with ambassadors, we don't pay them anything. So we have been really fortunate to keep the same dozen ambassadors that we've had since when we started in May, and they are each responsible for creating 1 piece of updatable content a month. But it does get tricky if that's not in your inbox. You're not paying them in anything other than promotional codes. So it's definitely a lot about kind of just fostering that relationship. And I think that as we continue to grow, certainly be able to put kind of a more systematic program in place for those ambassadors.
Just one other thought. Do you have exclusive sales arrangements on any of these products, or are they open?
No exclusive at this point.
Okay, so there has to be a concern of price comparison with other outlets of the products. One thing I would suggest in that, and especially it would certainly be easier as you scale up and have more funds available, would be to consider talking to those companies about creating specific different brand identities for the products you're carrying, different names, because then it's not purchasable from anyone else. It could even be the same product, but under your name, under your banner, a different product name, then you're the exclusive.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Harkening back to your question about advertising and promotion, are you familiar with the term growth hacking?
No.
No? Okay, that would be a good term to Google. It's the term people use to refer to the shortest line to getting a successful customer base, even through very unconventional means. So there are some really fun stories. For example, Airbnb, their turning point was when they figured out how to make it so that anyone posting on Airbnb, that post would get auto-posted onto Craigslist, which had an existing audience that now would get redirected back to Airbnb, completely against the Craigslist terms of service. But that's kind of the growth hacking mentality, really out of the box stuff, decide where your personal line of what you're okay with is. That's the term to Google.
Okay, cool. So kind
Well,
of
great.
using those established networks to be able to push your stuff through.
Google Determine, you'll see there's tons of different tactics people
Okay.
come up with.
Cool. Yeah.
If there are no more questions, I'll turn us over to Maggie for the next presenter.